Gender-critical fascism will not stop at trans people. That is something I and many others working in human rights have warned people about for decades now. And, as it turns out, we were right. A fact illustrated in Graham Linehan's horrifically bigoted attack targeting actor and comedian Stephen Fry. Just a heads up, I will be talking about a number of heavy topics including transmisia, homomisia, state murder, and child sexual abuse. If our work has helped you, please consider supporting us via Patreon so they can keep the channel running. We cannot survive without your support. You can also help us by liking, commenting, and sharing our work on social media. I'd also just like to take this time to remind our viewers that the statements made throughout our videos are the opinions of myself, the host, based on the evidence I have available to me. They are not and should not be taken as unquestionable fact, which is why we reference everything, because we're fallible. Thus we try to give you, the viewer, the ability to check all evidence yourself in order to make up your own mind, which is what the reference numbers in the top left corner are for, being numbers that match up with the reference list found in the transcript linked down below. As such, we encourage all viewers to do their own research to reach an informed conclusion about the topic. Hi there, mine's Ethel Thurston, she, her, they, them, and it's time to take on Graham Linehan's continued homomisia. Because, spoiler, this is not the first time he's been a bigoted piece of shit towards gay people. But it is a case involving someone who, for many British people, is somewhat of a national treasure, even if his reputation has taken a bit of flack in recent years, a nuance we will get to in a follow-up video. I am, of course, referring to none other than Stephen Fry. Graham Linehan is someone we have covered extensively on this channel, from his attacks on trans youth healthcare to his sexual harassment of a 17-year-old girl at a gender-critical event. He even threatened us with legal action in 2020, only to turn tail and run the moment we began fundraising to fight him in court. Since, unlike the cowards at Pink News who buckled at the mere mention of lawyers, we had no intention of backing down from our duty as reporters. Not that it left forever. Linehan would return, obsessively trying to degrade me, like in this 2021 comment where he tried labelling myself a neo-gender person we were covering and trans people in general incels, only for me to promptly remind him that, out of the two of us, only one still shared a bed with her wife every night, and it wasn't him. This was around the time his wife had left him over his anti-trans bigotry, which would lead to their divorce, with her taking the kids. A fact we only know because Linehan will not shut up about it when fishing for sympathy, blaming the trans community for just how repulsive he is, even to this day. And we really see that repulsiveness on full display with today's incident. It all began when, on the 12th of March 2026, Stephen Fry appeared in an Instagram video posted by Transmission, sharing the following message.
Hello, I'm Stephen Fry, and I just wanted to say that I believe that our trans friends, our trans siblings, deserve our support and encouragement and endorsement and vindication now more than ever as the rising tide of transphobia threatens to engulf not just trans people but everybody who associates with them. It's being used as a kind of lever to open up all kinds of horror. But meanwhile, lots of trans people are suffering, and we need to show our love.
This very simple message naturally garnered a lot of attention, as was its goal. Yet that sadly brought with it the snivelling fury of the gender-critical movement. This included Graham Linehan, who made a Twitter post alluding to the video on the 14th of March. It consisted of a derivative AI image depicting Fry in a toga beside a swimming pool, surrounded by a group of boys/very young men dressed in swimming trunks, and was accompanied by the caption, quote, "I call this Stephen Fry learns about trans rights from his husband and friends. Acrylic on canvas, 2026. End quote. Just to be clear, Stephen Fry's husband, Elliot Spencer, is 38 years old. And yes, that is still a considerable age gap, but he is well and truly an adult. The same cannot be said about the figures Linehan is presenting as Spencer and his friends. They straddle a very uncomfortable line in that they could be very young adults, but are far more likely to register as older children. And that is no accident. It's clear that, on the surface, Linehan is presenting this as a critique of Fry in ignoring the wisdom of other older gay men to instead listen to the naive younger generation. It forwards the myth that trans people are some new phenomenon, and that the only way someone such as Fry would come to support them would be to listen to those who are ignorant of LGBT+ history. This is extremely egotistical, forcing Linehan's perspective of LGBT+ history as a straight man upon a gay man. Yet beneath that there is a secondary attack, one which is trying to frame Fry, an older gay man, as someone who seeks out the company of scantily clad boys. A trope that carries with it a history of, shall we say, unsavory implications, specifically the implication that Stephen Fry is a child groomer. As was rightfully pointed out by numerous people, this is nothing more than old-school homomisia dressed up as a defense of the gay community. It is Linehan relying on some of the most heinous stereotypes about gay men in order to demonize an opponent, specifically pedojacketing. That is the deliberate attempt to portray a person as a pedophile without evidence, which is one of Linehan's favourite techniques. So much, in fact, that the London-based Institute for Strategic Dialogue noted that Nazis on 4chan very quickly adopted Linehan's 2019 strategy of replying to any trans person with the statement, "Okay, groomer," leading it to spread and go mainstream, harm he seems to be hoping to replicate here. It also needs to be pointed out that he is doing this in the context of the Epstein files being released, which have put a lot of people on edge right now, and for good reason. But it needs to be pointed out that, whilst Epstein and most of his most prominent clients, including Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, and Elon Musk, were all heterosexual men who raped countless girls, a portion of the anger and frustration said files have brought to the surface is being maliciously and dishonestly redirected towards other targets, including innocent trans and gay people. We see this in the usual satire by liberals casting Epstein and Trump as gay lovers, once more blaming gay people for the crimes of heterosexual child rapists. That is the environment in which Linehan is making these posts, implying Fry is a child groomer, in spite of Fry's husband being 38 years old. That is not just bigoted, that is actually dangerous. That is rhetoric that is likely to incite violence, not just towards Fry, but members of the gay and bisexual communities who likely cannot afford the same security Stephen Fry can. I also need to point out the mirror propaganda here, that's to say, how Graham Linehan was caught on camera attempting to sexually degrade a 17-year-old trans girl, a fact that was reported on extensively by us. Yet that's what he's accusing Fry of in his attack, projecting his own actions and motives in sexually abusing trans people, including children, onto anyone he deems his enemy, in this case, a prominent gay man. Yet shockingly, this isn't even the most heinous thing Linehan has done to lesbian, gay and bisexual people. Just last month, this self-declared defender of cis lesbians openly supported ICE's murder of Rennie Good, an innocent cis lesbian and mother who was shot repeatedly whilst attempting to drive away from a violent situation and then denied emergency care as she bled to death. Graham Linehan hates lesbian women because they refuse to support him. For whilst he claims to speak as an authority for cis lesbians, the self-styled king of lesbians if you will, between 84 to 96% of all cis lesbians support their trans sisters depending on their generation, completely undermining his bullshit. And now he seems to be expanding the scope of his hatred to include cis gay men as well. As expressed by Joe Morum of the Good Law Project, quote, "You ensure continuing support from the project by remaining useful as it expands its ambitions. Hence, now, the homophobia." End quote. It is a clear indicator of just how rapidly gender-critical fascism is expanding its circle of terror, endangering not just trans people, but the entire LGBT+ community in the process, as was always the plan. Of course, others took a more satirical approach in knocking Linehan down a peg, as seen in this wonderful Photoshop which replaced Fry's face with Linehan's and removed everyone else from the picture, accompanied with the caption that, quote, "I call this Graham Linehan relaxes with his loved ones and friends while recalling that one time J.K. Rowling retweeted him. Egg tempera on face, 2026, end quote." Which is just fucking amazing. It also clearly got under the skin of some of Linehan's fans, leading one of them to once again resort to derivative AI to add a bunch of noticeably white clones to the picture, claiming that they were just standing out of view. This completely missed the facts that what made the joke about Linehan being alone so funny is how it's based in reality, specifically the facts that Linehan's wife of 16 years divorced him and took the kids due to just how fucking monstrous he was in his crusade against trans people. A fact that, again, we only know about because Linehan will not shut up about it. So yeah, that was Linehan's homophobic attack on Fry, something that seems to have kicked a bit of a hornet's nest. Which is good, given the circumstances. As horrible as Linehan's actions are, it's good that Fry has social standing that offers him some protection that many of Linehan's other victims simply do not have. That said, it's still something we need to call out. And I say that as someone who does not like Stephen Fry as a person. I think he's a great actor and I used to enjoy his work as a secular humanist, but I also think he's a selfish prick with zero conviction who has only begun changing his tune regarding trans people because gender-critical fascism has expanded its violence to include people he sees as actual people, i.e. other gay men. And I absolutely intend to do a short follow-up on the history of why I feel this way, specifically his mocking of abuse victims and betrayal of Stonewall. But I've decided to leave it out here because it does not matter. Nothing Fry has done in the past even remotely justifies anything Linehan is doing now. It does not matter that I don't personally like the guy. I don't want to see him being targeted with clear incitement, to see him painted as a child predator because there is an age gap between him and his 38-year-old husband. My feelings towards Fry can be nuanced and complex, but the moment I see a fascist out there demonizing him as a gay man, relying on historical prejudices, I will stand up and call out said violent bullshit for what it is. Because that is basic humanity. Everyone has the right to safety and security by default, only self-defense overrides that. And Linehan is not engaging in self-defense by libeling a gay man as a child predator. Linehan is the one targeting and endangering people, and that needs to be pointed out for all to see, which is what we're doing here. And if you'd like to help us continue to do just that, please consider becoming one of our patrons who make our work possible. You can also make a one-time donation via PayPal or Super Thanks on YouTube. On that note, we'd just like to thank the following people: Matthew Kovac, Flynn, Loombat, Boea, Deborah Goldsmith, Higgins Siegel, Mix Alba, and Peter Cole. And with that, take care, and I'll catch you next time.